Update in the investigation into the death of a mother and daughter.
That's my sister and that's my niece. We don't know where they're at.
On March 12, 2023, Mish Melendez, a 27-year-old mother, and her 6-year-old daughter, Lila Stewart, disappeared from Vancouver, Washington.
And they believe them to be Mish Melendez and Lila Stewart based off unique identifying genetic marks.
Mish was a loving mother, and Lila was her entire world. Their sudden disappearance worried family members.
So, and tell you what, they just light up talking about Mish and Layla.
Especially since Mish had no history of leaving without telling someone. One of the last people to see them alive was Kirkland Warren, Mish's ex-boyfriend.
Mish's boyfriend, who is now a person of interest in this case.
Kirkland claimed they were trying to reconcile their relationship. But as the days passed, the situation took a dark turn.
There's always somebody that knows something.
Regarding 2 bodies that were near a rural area in Washougal.
Mish's car was found abandoned in the Van Mall neighborhood, and the police knew something was terribly wrong. This case wasn't just a missing persons investigation. It would reveal a disturbing history of violence and deception. The hunt for Mish and Lila would lead to a chilling discovery, a twisted betrayal, and a murder that would leave the entire community scarred. What happened to Mish and Lila, and who was responsible for their disappearance? This is the tragic story of love, betrayal, and loss. One that shook a family and a community to its core. On March 12, 2023, 27-year-old Mish Melendez and her 6-year-old daughter Lila Stewart went missing in Vancouver, Washington. Mish was a single mother devoted to her daughter, and her family immediately sensed that something was wrong. They reported her missing on March 18th, after no one had seen or heard from them for almost a week. The last time they were seen was in a burgundy Dodge Charger, driven by Mish's ex-boyfriend, Kirkland Warren. Mish and Lila had been staying with a friend due to issues with Kirkland. Family members were desperate for answers, and Mish's mother described the situation as losing a part of herself. Mish was active on social media, often posting TikTok videos with Lila. But after March 12th, there were no updates. As the days passed, concern grew. The community feared the worst. Something darker had happened. What had started as a missing persons case was about to reveal a story of love, betrayal, and murder. The last confirmed sighting of Mish Melendez and Lila Stewart was on the morning of March 12, 2023. They were seen with Kirkland Warren, Mish's ex-boyfriend, in his burgundy Dodge Charger. Kirkland claimed that after spending the night together at a mutual friend's house, he drove Mish and Lila to Mish's car parked down the street. According to him, he dropped them off, and that was the last time he saw them. However, on March 19th, investigators discovered Mish's abandoned car in the Van Mall neighborhood, the same area where she had stayed with Kirkland. This raised suspicions about his story. When questioned, Kirkland said he tried to contact Mish later that day because she'd left her purse in his car. But he claimed he wasn't concerned when he couldn't reach her, thinking she was just ignoring him. This was a critical turning point for investigators, who began to doubt Kirkland's story. The search intensified, and they would soon uncover a web of deception behind this chilling disappearance. Mish and Kirkland's relationship was troubled. In December 2022, Mish called 911 to report that Kirkland had assaulted her and even fired gunshots at her apartment balcony. She told police that she feared for her life. Kirkland was arrested and charged with domestic violence assault, drive-by shooting, and possession of a stolen firearm. Although Kirkland was held on $100,000 bail, he was released after only a few days. Mish later recanted her accusations, saying she'd lied about the shooting. The authorities were skeptical, believing that Mish was under pressure or afraid. A domestic violence no-contact order was issued, but Kirkland quickly violated it by calling Mish from jail, blaming her for his arrest. Despite this history, Kirkland claimed they were working things out when Mish and Lila went missing. The police now saw Kirkland as the prime suspect in their disappearance, fearing that the troubled relationship had taken a deadly turn. As investigators dug deeper, they discovered a shocking connection involving Mish, Kirkland, and Kirkland's estranged wife, Monet Tyler Warren. In November 2022, Monet was accused of stealing $220,000 from customer accounts at the credit union where she worked. Surveillance footage showed Mish opening an account at the same bank, suggesting she might have been involved in the theft scheme. Monet claimed she'd changed account information at Kirkland's request to help him steal money. Mish's social media activity also changed around this time, going dark after December 2022, likely due to the ongoing criminal scheme. Kirkland had told Mish about a large sum of money, leading her to believe they would have a better future. But behind this promise was a web of fraud, lies, and danger. This scheme, along with Kirkland's violent history, painted a picture of escalating risks. The investigation revealed that the motive behind Mish and Lila's disappearance might not have been love or jealousy, but money, deceit, and desperation. The search for Mish Melendez and Lila Stewart intensified as days passed without any trace of the mother and daughter. Mish's family was desperate for answers, and police began to treat their disappearance as a possible homicide. On March 19, 2023, detectives executed a search warrant on Kirkland Warren's house and car. They found blood, shell casings, and a blue tarp inside his Dodge Charger. The evidence suggested that Mish and Lila had met with foul play. Kirkland's behavior also raised suspicions. He transferred $4,200 from Mish's bank account to his own using her phone and texted a friend asking about secluded locations to bury a gun. As the investigation continued, police found themselves racing against time to find Mish and Lila. They feared the worst, and the mounting evidence pointed directly to Kirkland as the person responsible for their disappearance. The community held its breath, waiting for answers in this tragic and twisted case. On March 22, 2023, a chilling discovery was made. 2 bodies were found by a creek near a rural road in Washougal, Washington. Initially believed to be mannequins, the truth was far more horrific. The bodies were those of Misha Melendez and her 6-year-old daughter, Lila Stewart. Both had been killed by gunshot wounds to the head. Misha was shot once, while Lila was shot twice. Lila had also been assaulted, and investigators believed she suffered before her death. The brutal nature of the crime shocked the entire community. The discovery confirmed detectives' fears that Mish and Lila were victims of a violent crime. Police took this devastating information into their interrogation of Kirkland Warren. Despite overwhelming evidence, he maintained his innocence. But the physical evidence told a different story, pointing directly to him as the perpetrator of these heinous murders. The search for justice had only just begun, but the lives of Mish and Lila were lost forever. With mounting evidence, Kirkland Warren was arrested on March 22, 2023, for the murders of Mish Melendez and her daughter, Lila Stewart. Despite being confronted with the facts, Kirkland continued to deny any involvement. However, investigators knew about his history. He was previously charged with murder in Arkansas in 2017 for shooting a man named Curtis Urart and dumping the body in a ditch. The evidence against Kirkland in Mish and Lila's case was overwhelming. Investigators found shell casings and blood evidence in his Dodge Charger, linking him directly to the crime. He had also transferred $4,200 from Mish's bank account and texted about getting rid of a stolen car. Faced with these facts, Kirkland claimed that Mish had accidentally shot Lila and then herself, an implausible story given the evidence. He refused to confess, but investigators were confident they had their killer. Kirkland's pattern of violence and deception had finally caught up with him, and he now faced justice for the brutal deaths of Mish and Lila. In July 2023, Kirkland Warren pleaded guilty to the murders of Mish Melendez and Lila Stewart. He received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The court acknowledged Kirkland's violent history, including the 2017 murder of Curtis Urard in Arkansas. Misha's family delivered emotional impact statements expressing their grief over the loss of a devoted mother and a vibrant young girl. Despite the conviction, the community remained angry. They believed that Kirkland should never have been released on bail for his previous charges. Misha's mother stated that domestic violence had been ignored, ultimately costing 2 innocent lives. Although justice was served, the scars left by this tragedy will last forever.